Good morning. What I have to say involves everyone. In fact, it involves the whole church. There's something that we did is great. Now, this was during COVID. So the sad thing is only 3 people know about this. And that's Pastor Lynn, my wife, and myself. And I think you should hear this, so please bear with me. I want to start to say that my wife and I, we have 3 children, and they're all girls. Yeah, I feel the wave of sympathy. Now, my wife only had to go to hospital 2 times to have 3 children because our second child were twin girls. More wave of sympathy. So we moved from our townhome to our single family home. Now, this house had 3 bathrooms, but for 10 years I thought we only had 1. And they told me it was outside. But 5 people didn't move in this house. A 6th person moved in. That person was the invisible man. Now, the twins were the youngest. They were probably going to start preschool in about a year. But the invisible man got to work right away. He started off by drawing on the bottom parts of the walls with markers and crayons. Then as the girls got older, he started leaving, plates of food uneaten out underneath the couch, under empty cans of soda underneath the couch, because it was never them. It wasn't me. It was always the invisible man. But my wife and I, we had a rule about their bedrooms. No food allowed in the bedrooms, only water. But wouldn't you know it, as soon as the girls went to sleep, the invisible man would sneak in and put empty cans of soda and juice underneath the bed, plates of uneaten food, and crumbs all around the place. But I'm happy to say that our girls are grown and they're doing well, and they moved out of the house, and someone else moved out of the house. And that was the invisible man. Boy, I miss him. He was the only male friend I had. Wrong cue. Now, let me tell you about another invisible man. I have a good friend. His name is Jay. Unlike me, he does not believe in God. He doesn't believe in the power of prayer. And we would have lunch almost every day because we worked in the same building. And we each took a break during lunch, and we'd talk about politics, about sports, but anything I brought up about, anything I talked about religion or God, he would not talk about it. I said, do you believe in anything? He says, well, I believe in a supreme being. I don't know about you, but I always had a problem with that answer because it's like, I don't believe in God, but I believe in a supreme being. It's almost, there's a tear there that bothers me. Well, make a long story short, last year, Jay got very, very sick. His color started to change, started to turn yellow. His liver was failing him. He wasn't a drinker. He was not overweight, wasn't diabetic. To make a long story short, he went to go see a specialist. The specialist says that his liver is failing and he needs a transplant. So the doctors put him on very strong medication, and this medication it was much medication, and this medication brought his immune system down, so we had to stop coming to work. We couldn't see each other anymore because of COVID. So he was working from home, and he had to get blood tests every week. I would call him every Tuesday to find out how his levels were. There was enzyme levels, white blood count levels that had to stay in check. Sometimes the levels were good, sometimes they weren't. And then he said to me, he goes, I really miss our lunches together. So I came up with an idea. I said, I tell you what. I said, why don't we meet somewhere on Wednesday? We'll bring something to eat, sit out in the park. I'll wear a mask, we'll stay away from people. And we used to meet, you probably heard of it, Goose Creek, where you can get a sandwich, sit outside, and they have a park in the back. We used to walk around the park. And I would ask him questions like, how you doing, this and that and this. So every week we would meet. Well, one day, he said to me, he says, well, Rob, he said, the doctors I'm medicated to the hilt. They can't give me any more medication to keep my levels fine because it would be toxic. And he was very depressed, and rightfully so. So I stopped in the path, and I said, Jay, I said, look. And he liked walking with me because I always made him laugh because he said I had a sense of humor. I don't know where that came from. So I said, Jay, listen. I said, look, you're not overweight, you're not diabetic, you're on medication, you're able to work, you're able to walk, you're able to walk with me. You're on a donor list. I said, this is going to work. Now, he looks at me, and he does this. He says, your lips to God's ears. I said, wait a minute. He goes, I know. I don't believe. I'm just doing it as a figure of speech. I said, okay. So after that walk, I got in my car to go back to work, and something hit me that I'd never felt before in my life. For 3 or 4 seconds, this wave hit me. I knew exactly where I was in the car and what street. Now I know it was God. And in those 3 or 4 seconds, I understood every word he said and everything he asked me to do. And this was what it was. He said, Rob, you have something here to do for me. You have to let Jay know that I am real, that I am in his life. It is up to you. I had no idea what to do. It bothered me so much. I couldn't get him to come to church, COVID, his medical condition. I even went home and asked my wife, what do I do? God is telling me to do something. I have no idea. And I was frustrated. She said, why don't you talk to one of the ministers? Great idea. That Sunday, we were actually outside, if you remember. Pastor Lynn was there. I went up to there, went to her, told her the situation. She said, you're right. God's asking you to do something. I said, please tell me. I said, I'm about asking you to do something. What do I do? And she said this. She said, you know we have a prayer chain. And I do. My wife was on it 15 years ago when she was battling breast cancer. She said, don't put your friend Jay on it. Ask his permission the next time you see him. Ease into it. It's a great idea. I saw him. We walked. I brought it up. I said, Jay, I don't want to embarrass you and make you feel bad or obligated, but we have a prayer chain at church. I said, my wife was on it, very supportive. It helped us out very much. I said, I'd like to put you on it. He didn't say no. He says, I appreciate that. And he says, by all means. Went back that Wednesday. I emailed, is it Sid? Put him on the prayer chain. Also told Pastor Lynn. That following Sunday, Pastor Lynn had a prayer shawl, which I forgot about. She said, usually we deliver this to the person, but because of COVID, she goes, can you give this to Jay, your friend Jay, next time you see him? She actually wrote a handwritten letter to him. So I called him on Monday, said, we're still meeting Wednesday. Yep. I said, I have a gift to give you from our church. It's a prayer shawl. I never got to see him because that night, Monday night at 8:20, I remember the time, I got a text. He said, Rob, the hospital just called. They have a donor. I have to drop everything. I have to go. I said, good luck. Everything will work out. Please keep me posted. Your wife. 24 hours later, his wife calls me. She says, everything went fine. He's in ICU. She couldn't even see him because of COVID. She can only see him through a window. Wires coming out of him, tube down his throat. He's in ICU for 3 days. The second day, he had his cell phone with him, and he texted me. Couldn't even speak. He texted me. He said, Rob, I guess you heard from my wife that everything went fine. And he said, I can't even speak, can't even drink. I got a tube down my throat. And then he says this, kind of weird that as soon as you put me on your church's prayer chain that I got a call for a donor. Usually when you wait for a donor, you wait for someone to die. So I didn't say anything back. I wanted to wait till I saw him in person. 3 days later, he's in his own hospital room. He can only have one visitor a day. Of course, it's his wife. One day, his wife couldn't make it for some reason I don't know, and he asked me, and I said, I'm there. Drove all the way down to Philly, walked in his room. He's sitting up. His color's good, looks good, only one IV. He's eating. Sit and talk, just chatting. Then I brought it up. I said, Jay, do you remember what you texted me in the ICU about kind of unusual that you got a donor being on the prayer chain? He said, yeah, what a coincidence, huh? And I said, hey. Because he thought God was the invisible man. That he can't believe people believe that there's a visible man that everyone looks at and, he judges you. And I said, it could be your visible man. He put down his tray of food. He puts both fists in the air and he says, God works in mysterious ways. I said, are you saying that? And he said it again. We did this together. We gave his invisible man a name. And that name is God. Now, when he is well, he wants to come here. He wants to thank everyone. I think we've done something well during COVID, and I thought it was only fair for everyone to know this. Now, I thank you for that, and I thank you, Pastor Lynn, for your guidance. Now, as far as my wife thinks our invisible man still lives at our house. I asked her why, and she said, because he keeps turning down the heat and leaving the toilet seat up. It's not me. Amen. Thank you.